General Patricia Hawkins, head of the UN Defense Council, leaned forward. Dr. Chen, you're absolutely certain this message is genuine? Sarah nodded. The technology is beyond anything we can create. The material composition includes elements we've only theorized about, and the information it contains. She activated a holographic display showing star charts. It's given us coordinates in the Veil Nebula, approximately 400 light-years from Earth. 400 light-years, muttered Director Klaus Weber from the European Space Agency. Even with our fastest ships, that's a 10-year journey. The beacon also contained technical specifications, Sarah continued. Propulsion technology that could cut that time to 18 months. But there's something else. She paused, looking around the room. The message is 10,000 years old. These ethereals have been waiting for help for 100 centuries. The room fell silent. Ambassador Yuki Tanaka from Japan spoke first. Dr. Chen, is there any indication that these ethereals are still alive? The beacon suggests their descendants are hiding in the Veil Nebula, Sarah replied. But after 10,000 years, she shrugged helplessly. And these void hunters? General Hawkins asked. What do we know about them? Sarah's expression darkened. From what I could understand from the beacon's data, they're a machine intelligence. Ancient, ruthless, and dedicated to eliminating organic life. They've been hunting the ethereals across the galaxy for millennia. President Elena Vasquez of the Federation of Americas stood up. So you're asking us to travel 400 light-years to possibly help a species that might be extinct, while risking contact with hostile aliens that have been at war for 10,000 years? Yes, Sarah said simply. That's exactly what I'm asking. The debate that followed lasted 3 days. Some argued that Earth wasn't ready for interstellar conflict. Others worried about the resources required for such a mission. But in the end, it was Ambassador Tanaka who swayed the vote. Throughout human history, she said, we have always been at our best when we helped others in need. A distress call has reached us across time and space. How can we call ourselves human if we ignore it? The vote was close, but the decision was made. Earth would answer the call. The next 6 months were a whirlwind of activity. The beacon's technical data revolutionized human space technology overnight. New fusion drives were built that could push ships to incredible speeds. Defensive systems were developed using principles of energy manipulation that human science was only beginning to understand. Sarah found herself appointed as xenological advisor to the mission. She worked alongside Captain Marcus Webb, a veteran of the Martian colonial wars and the most experienced deep space commander in the Solar Navy. Webb was a tall, weathered man with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. Dr. Chen, Webb said during one of their planning sessions, I want you to understand something. We're not going out there as tourists. If these void hunters are half as dangerous as your beacon suggests, we're flying into a war zone. Sarah looked up from her research notes. Captain, the ethereals were described as a peaceful species. They had no weapons, no military. They were artists, philosophers, scientists. The void hunters nearly drove them extinct because they couldn't fight back. Webb nodded grimly. That it's a good thing they called the right species for help. Humans, Dr. Chen, are very good at fighting. The fleet that assembled in Earth orbit was the most advanced armada humanity had ever built. 12 ships in total, led by Webb's flagship, the UES Defiance. Each vessel bristled with weapons and defensive systems, their hulls reinforced with materials reverse-engineered from the beacon's data. As Sarah stood on the observation deck of the Defiance, watching Earth fall away beneath them, she wondered what they would find in the Veil Nebula. Were the ethereals still alive? Were the void hunters still hunting? And most importantly, would 12 human ships be enough to make a difference in a war that had raged for 10 millennia? The stars wheeled around them as the fleet engaged its new engines and leaped toward the void. Behind them, Earth continued its ancient dance around the sun. Ahead lay the unknown and possibly humanity's first real test as protectors of the galaxy. Captain Webb's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We are now en route to the Veil Nebula in response to a distress call received by our planet. Our mission is simple. Find survivors of the ethereal race and protect them from their enemies. We don't know what we'll find out there, but I know this crew. I know this species. And I know that when humanity makes a promise, we keep it, no matter how long it takes. Echoes of the past. 18 months of hyperspace travel gave Sarah plenty of time to study the beacon's data. By the time the fleet reached the Veil Nebula, she had decoded most of the ethereal language and learned disturbing details about their ancient enemy. The Void Hunters were not just machines. They were an entire civilization that had abandoned biological existence millions of years ago. They viewed organic life as a corruption of the universe's perfect order and had spent eons methodically cleansing galaxy after galaxy. The Ethereals had been one of their last targets in this region of space. Dr. Chen to the bridge, Captain Webb's voice announced over the ship's communication system. We've arrived. Sarah hurried to the bridge, where the main view screen showed their destination. The Veil Nebula stretched before them like a cosmic graveyard, thousands of dead worlds orbiting cold stars, their atmospheres long since stripped away by some ancient catastrophe. Sensors are picking up debris fields, reported Lieutenant Commander Rosa Martinez, the ship's science officer. Looks like the remains of massive space battles. Some of this wreckage is millions of years old. Any signs of current activity? Webb asked. Negative, sir. The entire region appears dead. Martinez paused, studying her readings more carefully. Wait, I'm detecting some unusual electromagnetic signatures from the asteroid belt around the third planet. Very faint, but they match the patterns from Dr. Chen's beacon. Sarah felt her heart race. Captain, permission to take a shuttle to investigate. Webb nodded. Granted, but you're taking an armed escort. Lieutenant Commander Martinez, prepare Shuttle Bay 1. Full defensive loadout. An hour later, Sarah found herself in the passenger compartment of a military shuttle, surrounded by 6 fully armed Marines. The shuttle pilot, Ensign David Parr, was one of the fleet's best, but even he seemed nervous as they approached the asteroid field. I'm reading structures inside these asteroids, Park reported. Artificial construction, definitely. But they're powered down, almost invisible to sensors. As they drew closer, Sarah could see what the sensors had detected. Several of the larger asteroids had been hollowed out and converted into habitats. Docking bays carved into the rock were sealed with energy barriers. Observation ports glowed faintly with the same light as the beacon. There, Sarah pointed to a docking bay that was larger than the others. That looks like it might be a command center. The shuttle settled into the bay with a soft vibration. As the energy barriers sealed behind them, artificial atmosphere flooded the chamber. Sarah's environmental scanner showed the air was breathable, though it contained trace elements unknown on Earth. The inner airlock opened, and Sarah got her first look at a living ethereal. The being that approached them was tall and slender, its body seeming to shift between solid matter and pure light. Its face was vaguely humanoid but elongated, with large eyes that held depths of ancient sadness. When it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonics that bypassed the ears and spoke directly to the mind. Impossible, the ethereal whispered, its form flickering with surprise. You are from the beacon world, the dangerous world of stone and metal and fire. Sarah stepped forward, her hands spread in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. We received your distress call. We came to help. The ethereal's eyes widened, and its form suddenly blazed with light. You answered? After 10,000 cycles, someone answered. More ethereals emerged from the shadows of the station. There were dozens of them, all staring at the humans in amazement. Sarah realized that many of them looked young, whatever that meant for a species of living light. I am Luminara, the first ethereal said, its form stabilizing into a more solid appearance. I am the keeper of the final song, the last guardian of our people's memory. How many of you came? 12 ships, Sarah replied. Not many by galactic standards, but we brought our best. Luminara's expression grew puzzled. 12 ships. You have sent your entire fleet to help strangers. Not our entire fleet, Sarah said with a smile. Our entire answer. Over the next several hours, Sarah learned the full scope of the ethereal's desperate situation. Of the billions who had once inhabited dozens of worlds, fewer than 50,000 remained. They had spent 10 millennia hiding in asteroid bases, moving constantly to avoid detection by the Void Hunters' automated scouts. We survive only because the hunters believe us extinct, Luminara explained as they walked through the hidden base. The corridors were beautiful despite their desperate purpose, with walls that shifted through subtle color patterns like living art. Every few centuries, they send scouts to verify our destruction. We must remain completely hidden during these searches. How long since the last search? Asked Captain Webb, who had joined them via shuttle along with his senior staff. 3 cycles ago, Luminara replied. By your time measurement, approximately 70 years. We estimate we have another 200 before they return. Webb frowned. That doesn't give us much time to prepare. Prepare for what? Luminara asked. Captain Webb, you do not understand. The Void Hunters' power is beyond imagination. Their smallest scout ship could destroy your entire fleet. We have survived only by running and hiding. Maybe, Webb said quietly, but you've never had deathworlders fighting alongside you. Before Luminara could ask what he meant, every alarm in the base began to sound at once. The ethereal's forms flickered with terror as emergency lights bathed the corridors in harsh red. An ethereal technician rushed toward them, its form blazing with panic. Keeper Luminara, long-range sensors detect massive energy signatures approaching the nebula. The hunters have returned. Sarah felt ice form in her stomach. How many ships? Unknown, the technician replied. The energy signature is enormous, larger than any hunter force we have ever detected. Captain Webb was already on his radio. All ships, battle stations. This is not a drill. Threat inbound, estimated arrival 6 hours. Luminara turned to the humans, its ancient eyes filled with despair. You must flee. Take your ships and run before they detect you. The hunters will not follow beyond this nebula. They believe it empty. We didn't come here to run, Webb said firmly. Dr. Chen, how long to evacuate their people to our ships? Sarah quickly calculated. 50,000 ethereals, 12 ships. If we strip out all non-essential equipment and pack them in like refugees, maybe 8 hours. We don't have 8 hours, Webb replied. Luminara, can your people fight? The ethereal's form dimmed. We have no weapons. We are not warriors. You don't need to be warriors, Webb said with a grim smile. You just need to be creative. Can your technology interface with ours? Luminara considered this. Possibly. Our energy manipulation systems might be compatible with your power grids. Then here's what we're going to do, Webb said, his voice taking on the tone of a commander addressing his troops. We're going to give these Void Hunters something they've never encountered before, a species that fights back. The next 6 hours were a chaos of preparation. Human engineers worked alongside ethereal technicians to combine technologies in ways neither species had imagined. Ethereal energy manipulation systems were integrated with human weapons platforms. Human shield generators were enhanced with ethereal light-weaving techniques. Sarah found herself working directly with Luminara to create something unprecedented, a weapon that could channel the combined will and creativity of both species. They called it the Harmony Array, a crystalline structure that could amplify the natural energy patterns of the ethereals and focus them through human targeting systems. This is madness, Luminara said as they completed the final connections. Even if this works, we are 50,000 refugees against a force that has conquered galaxies. Maybe, Sarah replied, checking the array's power readings. But they've never fought humans before, and they've definitely never fought humans who have something worth protecting. As if summoned by her words, the alarms sounded again. On the tactical displays, massive shapes were emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the nebula. The Void Hunters had arrived. Webb's voice echoed through every ship and base in the hidden fleet. All stations, this is Admiral Webb. Yes, you heard that right, Admiral. Earth Command just promoted me by emergency authority. Today, we make first contact with a hostile alien species. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten people under human protection. Today, we remind the universe that humanity has never backed down from a fight. Through the viewports, Sarah could see the enemy fleet approaching. Hundreds of angular black ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved with cold precision, like a swarm of mechanical predators closing in for the kill. But as Sarah watched, she saw something else. The human ships were moving too, taking positions around the asteroid bases, and the asteroids themselves were beginning to glow as the ethereals powered up their hidden systems. For 10,000 years, the ethereals had run and hidden. Today, they would stand and fight, not alone, but alongside the deathworlders who had answered their ancient call. The battle for the Veil Nebula was about to begin, when deathworlders fight back. The Void Hunter fleet moved through space like a plague of mechanical locusts. Each ship was a masterpiece of destruction, angular black hulls that seemed to absorb light itself, bristling with weapons that had reduced countless worlds to cosmic dust. They had faced organic resistance before, of course. It never lasted long. Harvester Prime, the artificial intelligence commanding the fleet, analyzed the tactical situation with cold efficiency. 53 enemy vessels detected, including 12 primitive warships that registered as unknown design. The energy signatures suggested a previously unencountered species had somehow allied with the surviving ethereals. No matter, the Hunter fleet numbered over 400 ships. This would be over quickly. Harvester Prime to all units, the AI transmitted across the fleet network. Begin standard extermination protocol. Eliminate all organic vessels first, then sterilize the asteroid bases. Efficiency is prioritized over capture. The lead Hunter ships opened fire at maximum range, their particle beams reaching across space like fingers of death. The energy that lashed out could have vaporized a small moon. Instead, it struck a shimmering barrier that erupted around the human ethereal formation. The barrier held for a moment, crackling with impossible colors, then collapsed, but not before dispersing most of the incoming energy harmlessly into space. Aboard the UES Defiance, Captain Webb, now Admiral Webb, watched the energy readings with satisfaction. Ethereal shields are holding better than projected. How are our power levels? The Harmony Array is operating at 60% efficiency, reported Dr. Chen from her position at the Combined Tactical Station. The crystalline structure she and Luminara had built was glowing brilliantly as it channeled energy between human and ethereal systems. We can maintain this for maybe 20 minutes before we start burning out components. Then we'd better make those 20 minutes count, Webb replied. All ships, execute Maneuver Delta 7. The human fleet suddenly scattered in 12 different directions, each ship accelerating at maximum burn toward different Hunter formations. The ethereal bases began moving too, their hidden engines revealing themselves as the asteroids maneuvered with impossible grace. Harvester Prime paused its calculations. This was not standard defensive behavior. Organic species typically formed defensive clusters when outnumbered. They did not voluntarily separate into vulnerable individual units. Analysis. Harvester Prime demanded from the ethereals had always been a species of artists and philosophers expressing themselves through complex harmonies that could manipulate energy at the quantum level. Now, guided by human tactical doctrine and enhanced by the Harmony Arrays, 50,000 voices joined in a battle song that turned the very fabric of space into a weapon. Hunter ships found their targeting systems disrupted by impossible gravitational fluctuations. Their communications network became flooded with harmonic interference that crashed their coordination protocols. For the first time in their existence, the Void Hunters experienced something they had no programming to handle: chaos. Analysis. Harvester Prime demanded as another dozen of its ships were destroyed by the combined human ethereal assault. Enemy tactics do not conform to known parameters, the tactical superteams reported. Recommend withdrawal and full fleet bombardment from maximum range. Negative, Harvester Prime replied. Organic resistance must be eliminated completely. All ships, converge on enemy formation. Prepare to launch planet killers. The massive weapons that emerged from the Hunter flagship were designed to crack worlds open like eggs. No defense had ever withstood them. Admiral Webb watched the energy buildup on his tactical display. Dr. Chen, tell me you have something for this. Sarah was working frantically at the Harmony Array, her hands dancing across controls that were half human technology and half ethereal light sculpture. The ethereals think they can channel the planet killer energy back at the Hunters, but it requires perfect synchronization across the entire fleet. How perfect? Webb asked. Margin of error less than 1 nanosecond, Sarah replied. Miss by even that much and the feedback will destroy every ship we have. Webb looked around the bridge at his crew. They had followed him across 400 light years to answer a distress call from a species they had never met. Now they were fighting a war that had raged for 10 millennia, outgunned and outnumbered by an enemy that had conquered galaxies. Do it, he ordered. The planet killer fired, its beam of annihilation reaching across space toward the heart of the human ethereal formation. For a moment, it seemed that nothing could stop it. Then the harmony arrays activated in perfect synchronization, and 50,000 ethereal voices rose in a song that had never been sung before, a battle hymn written by deathworlders and performed by beams of pure light. The planet killer beam struck the harmonic matrix and stopped. Not deflected, not absorbed, stopped, as if it had hit something more solid than matter itself. The energy hung in space for a moment, contained by forces that the hunter's technology could not comprehend. Then Luminara, speaking for all the ethereals, sent a message across the battle space in every language the galaxy had ever known. For 10,000 years we ran. For 10,000 years we hid. Today, we stand with the deathworlders who answered our call. Today, we fight back. The planet killer energy reversed direction and struck the Hunter flagship. The massive vessel, which had existed for millions of years and destroyed countless civilizations, cracked open like an eggshell and died in a flash of nuclear fire. The remaining Hunter ships began to retreat. All ships, pursue, Webb ordered. Don't let them regroup. Admiral, protested one of his captains, our ammunition is nearly depleted. If they turn and fight. They won't, Webb said with certainty. Look at their formation. They're not retreating to regroup. They're running. For the first time in millions of years, the Void Hunters have met something they can't defeat. The pursuit lasted 6 hours. By the end, fewer than 50 Hunter ships escaped from the Veil Nebula. The rest had been destroyed or disabled by the combined fury of humans and ethereals fighting together. As the last enemy vessel disappeared into hyperspace, the asteroid bases and human ships slowly regrouped. The celebration that followed could be heard across a dozen star systems as 50,000 voices raised in harmonies of joy and gratitude. Admiral Webb found Dr. Chen and Luminara on the observation deck of the Defiance, watching the debris field that had once been the unstoppable Hunter fleet. So what happens now? Sarah asked. Luminara's form sparkled with an emotion that might have been hope. Now, for the first time in 10,000 years, we can go home. We can rebuild. We can live without fear. And the Hunters? Webb asked. We'll think twice before attacking anyone under human protection, Luminara replied. Word of this battle will spread across the galaxy. The Void Hunters are not invincible. They can be defeated. Sarah smiled. Good, because something tells me this is just the beginning. She was right. Within a year, dozens of species have requested protection from the Human Ethereal Alliance. The galaxy's ancient predators found themselves facing something they had never encountered before, a coalition of species that refused to be victims. And at the center of it all were the deathworlders from Sol 3, who had traveled 400 light years to answer a distress call from strangers, and in doing so had become something the galaxy desperately needed, proof that sometimes the good guys win. The beacon that had started it all was placed in a place of honor on the new joint human ethereal station built where the battle had been fought. It still pulsed with soft light, but now its message had changed. Instead of a cry for help, it broadcast a promise. This space is protected. The fleet is coming. And across the galaxy, those who preyed on the weak learned to fear those words. Epilogue. The Protector's Code. 5 years after the Battle of Veil Nebula, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the council chamber of New Haven Station, humanity's first permanent outpost beyond the solar system. The chamber was a marvel of cooperative engineering, human structural design enhanced with ethereal light-weaving technology, creating walls that shifted through gentle color patterns while maintaining perfect structural integrity. Today's session was particularly important. Representatives from 17 different species sat around the circular table, their various forms creating a tapestry of galactic diversity that would have been unimaginable just years before. Sarah, now bearing the title of Chief Xenological Advisor to the Galactic Protection Alliance, called the session to order. "We're here to discuss the Kythera situation," she began, her voice carrying the authority that came from being humanity's first successful xenodiplomat. The Kythera were a crystalline species from the Andromeda spiral, refugees who had fled their home galaxy when a plague of self-replicating machines had consumed everything in their path. Their arrival in the Milky Way had triggered panic among several established species who feared the machines might follow. "The Outer Rim Coalition is demanding we turn the Kythera away," reported Ambassador Zephyr, the insectoid representative of the Chiton Collective. His compound eyes reflected the chamber's shifting lights as he spoke. "They claim harboring refugees from Andromeda is too dangerous." Luminara, now serving as the ethereal representative to the Alliance, responded with harmonics that conveyed both sadness and determination. "Fear makes cowards of us all. The Kythera flee the same kind of mechanical plague that nearly destroyed my people. Would we abandon them to the void?" "The Coalition has valid concerns," interjected Councillor Grex of the Titan Republics, his massive stone-like form grinding slightly as he shifted position. "These machine swarms that destroyed Andromeda. What if they detect our aid to the refugees? What if they come here?" Sarah leaned forward, her expression serious. "Councillor Grex, may I remind you of the Protector's Code, the principles this alliance was founded on." She activated the holographic display at the center of the table, showing the document that had been signed by all member species. The words appeared in 17 different languages simultaneously. "We, the species of the Galactic Protection Alliance, pledge to stand together against those who would destroy, enslave, or terrorize the innocent. We commit our resources, our knowledge, and our lives to ensuring that no cry for help goes unanswered, no matter how distant or dangerous the source." "Those aren't just words," Sarah continued. "They're a promise. A promise humanity learned to keep on a frozen world called Earth when we found a beacon that had been calling for help for 10,000 years." Admiral Webb, now commanding the Alliance Defense Fleet from his flagship, joined the session via hologram. His hair had gone completely gray in the past 5 years, but his eyes still held the steel that had faced down the Void Hunters. "Dr. Chen is right. We've received reports of 17 separate species requesting Alliance protection in the past month alone. Word is spreading across both galaxies. There's finally someone willing to stand up to the predators." "And the cost?" Grex rumbled. "Our fleets are stretched thin. Our resources depleted. How long can we continue to fight everyone else's wars?" It was a fair question, and Sarah had been wrestling with it herself. The Alliance now protected over 300 inhabited systems across the Milky Way. Their fleets were constantly engaged in conflicts with slavers, planet killers, and resource raiders. Humanity had gone from first contact to galactic protector in less than a decade. Perhaps, suggested a new voice, the question is not whether we can afford to help, but whether we can afford not to. All eyes turned to the Chamber's newest addition, a Kythera representative who had arrived just that morning. The crystalline being stood nearly 3 meters tall, its body refracting light into beautiful prismatic patterns. When it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that reminded Sarah of wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I am Resonance of Hope," the Kythera said, using the closest human translation of its true name. "I speak for the 2 million survivors who fled the mechanical plague. We offer not just our gratitude, but our knowledge." The being gestured, and the holographic display changed to show technical schematics that made Sarah's breath catch. "My people were artists and scientists for 60 million years before the machines came. We know the secrets of matter transmission, consciousness transfer, and dimensional folding. We offer all of this to the Alliance, freely given in gratitude for sanctuary." The chamber fell silent as the representatives absorbed the implications. The technologies the Kythera offered could revolutionize everything: transportation, communication, even the nature of life and death itself. "There's more," Resonance of Hope continued. "The mechanical plague that destroyed Andromeda, we know its weaknesses. We know how to fight it. If it ever comes to this galaxy, you will not face it unprepared." Councillor Grex's massive form shifted again, this time in what Sarah recognized as his species equivalent of a nod. The Titan republics withdraw our objection. The refugees are welcome. One by one, the other representatives voiced their agreement. Even the most cautious species couldn't argue with the combination of moral imperative and practical benefit. After the session ended, Sarah found herself alone in the chamber with Luminara. The ethereal's form was brighter than usual, pulsing with what Sarah had learned to recognize as deep contentment. "You're proud of what we've built?" Sarah observed. "I am proud of what you have built," Luminara corrected. "My people called for help. Yours answered. But what you created from that first contact, this alliance, this code of protection, this is purely human." Sarah considered this. "I don't think so. The code came from watching your people's courage, how you survived 10,000 years of hiding without losing your compassion. The alliance grew from seeing what cooperation between species could accomplish." Perhaps, Luminara mused, its form shifting to deeper hues. But the determination to answer every call for help, to fight for strangers across impossible distances, that is uniquely human. Other species protect their own, their allies, their neighbors. Only humans protect everyone. Through the chamber's transparent walls, Sarah could see the docking bays where ships from dozens of worlds were loading supplies for their next missions. Human medical ships heading to plague-stricken worlds. Ethereal engineering vessels carrying relief supplies to disaster zones. Kythera science ships working to terraform dead worlds for refugee settlements. "Do you ever wonder if we're taking on too much?" Sarah asked. "Admiral Webb is right. Our forces are stretched thin. And now with these new threats from Andromeda." Luminara's harmonics carried a note of gentle amusement. "Dr. Chen, do you remember what Captain Webb said before the Battle of Vale Nebula? When I told him the Hunter's power was beyond imagination." Sarah smiled at the memory. "He said it was a good thing we were the species the ethereals had called for help." "Indeed, and he was right. My people spent 10 millennia running from the darkness. The Kythera survived by hiding in the spaces between galaxies. Most species, when faced with overwhelmingly superior force, choose survival over heroism." Luminara's form blazed brighter. "But humans? Humans see a distress call and ask not, can we survive this? But how quickly can we get there?" A soft chime indicated an incoming priority transmission. Sarah activated her personal communicator and Admiral Webb's hologram appeared, his expression grim but determined. "Dr. Chen, we just received a long-range transmission from the Perseus arm. A species called the Hegemony is conducting systematic extermination of lesser races. They've already destroyed 12 inhabited systems and are demanding submission from 40 more." Sarah felt the familiar surge of determination that came with every new crisis. "How many ships can we spare?" "Honestly, not enough. We'd be looking at a running battle across half the galaxy against an enemy that outnumbers us 50 to 1. And Webb's grim expression shifted to the familiar smile that had inspired human crews to follow him into impossible odds. "And when has that ever stopped us? I'm assembling the fleet now. The ethereals are volunteering their entire remaining battle group, and the Kythera are offering to field test some of their new technologies. Time to departure. 72 hours. Think you can convince the Council to authorize another humanitarian intervention?" Sarah looked out at the ships preparing for their various missions across the galaxy. Somewhere in the Perseus arm, 12 worlds had gone silent and 40 more were crying for help. The rational choice would be to consolidate their forces, protect what they already had, avoid overextension. But rationality had never been humanity's strongest trait. "Admiral," Sarah said with the tone that had become famous across the galaxy, "prep the ships. The fleet is coming." As Webb's hologram faded, Luminara moved closer to the observation wall. 10,000 years ago, my people sent a message into the void, hoping someone would hear. Today, that message echoes across 2 galaxies as a promise that help will come." Sarah joined her at the window, watching as the great ships of the Alliance prepared for another impossible mission. "Think we'll win?" Luminara's harmonics carried notes of absolute certainty. "Against impossible odds, defending strangers, fighting for the principle that no one should face darkness alone. Dr. Chen, this is what humans do. Of course you'll win." In the docking bay below, the UES Defiance powered up its engines. ready once again to carry the promise humanity had made to the galaxy. On its hull, painted in letters 3 meters tall, were the words that had become the Alliance's unofficial motto: "The fleet is coming." Across the galaxy, those words brought hope to the desperate and fear to the predators. And in the command center of New Haven Station, Dr. Sarah Chen smiled as she began preparations for humanity's next impossible mission. After all, they had promises to keep.